What's going on, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to be going over the exact method that I use every single day to be able to focus in on exactly the stocks I'm going to be trading for the day without having to take any low quality trades or unnecessary losses. So you might be asking yourself, what is relative strength slash weakness? Relative strength slash weakness occurs when an individual asset is outperforming its index. So you might be asking yourself, what does this even mean? So relative strength, meaning when, for example, Tesla is outperforming the QQQ, an indice or index, and it's outperforming the Qs itself within its own individual day. So let's say Tesla is moving up like this in a clear trend, pushing up and making new highs, right? And QQQ has just been ranging all day. This would be a key factor displaying relative strength and weakness. Tesla continuing towards the upside, retesting previous highs and continuing higher. QQQ just ranging in between its own price action, just not doing anything for the day, right? And now you might be asking yourself, why does relative strength or weakness even occur? It can occur when one stock or instrument is relatively strong, i.e. pushing up more aggressively compared to its asset class. Like I mentioned previously, the QQQ is being outperformed by Tesla, right? So example, Tesla moving up over 5 points compared to the Q ranging like I had drawn up here in this previous example. Anyways, let's go into some scenarios now of how the QQQ can be affected by the overall tech stocks. And if you don't know already, the QQQ is just the asset class or the index that actually holds all of the tech stocks within it. So scenario number one that can play out with QQQ and the tech stocks with relative strength. So the QQQ can just be ranging, right? Like I mentioned previously, it's not making any new highs or any new lows. Now you can also have tech in the same scenario being also in its own range, not making any new highs or any new lows. This means that the QQQ and tech are closely correlated and they're moving alongside each other. So now moving on to scenario number two, the QQQ is continuously ranging. We still haven't made any new highs or any new lows, similar to scenario number one, right? And the tech now is making new highs and higher lows. We are continuing to push towards the upside, and this is a key indication of relative strength and weakness. This could be relative strength, for example. Now, moving on to scenario number three, QQQ alongside tech, they are both moving towards the upside, making new highs and higher lows. We are continuing to push towards the upside on tech, and we're continuing to push towards the upside on the QQQ, right? So this is a key example of the Qs and tech correlated alongside each other, similar to this example here, except now we're continuing towards the upside. Now, here's another example. This one typically does not happen, but you will see at times where the QQQ is pushing up and the tech stocks are just staying within their own range. Let's say this is Tesla, for example, and overall the tech indice is moving higher compared to the names within it. So this occurs typically when there's news or heavy fundamentals like tariffs, for example. This would be towards the downside though, with it continuing towards the downside. For example, this is towards the upside. Let's say the overall market received bullish news like the 90-day pause for tariffs. We are continuing to move towards the upside. The tech names would still be strong, but not as strong, just maintaining its own price, right? Now that we have gone over all the scenarios that could potentially happen, let's go more in depth into each of these scenarios. So the first scenario, like I mentioned previously, is QQQ ranging within its own daily range and the tech stocks ranging alongside it, these two being correlated alongside each other. So now let's move on to a real chart example. So you can see Apple has created this high and not made any new high, and this low hasn't pushed below this low. We have continued to range within our own daily range here on Apple. Similar to Qs here, where we haven't made any new high above your 555.75 about, and we haven't made any new low. So I'm going to consider this to be our daily low because this was before the day actually opened. This was, I believe, in the pre-market, if I'm not mistaken. So as you can see, we haven't made any new high or low on either name. This is a perfect example of when the tech stock, for example, for this case, Apple, is just ranging within its own price action. And then QQQ alongside it is just consolidating. So this is a day that you typically do not want to trade. This is a way more difficult day to trade compared to some of the next scenarios I'm going to show you guys for relative strength and weakness. This would be considered a normal day where the tech stocks alongside QQQ are moving corresponding to each other. Now let's move on to scenario number 2, where the QQQ, let me change the color really quick. The QQQ is still ranging, but now the tech stocks are pushing towards the upside. The individual name, for example, Apple, like we had previously, is pushing towards the upside, continuing to make higher highs and higher lows, right? We're in a trend. Now let's move on to an example that shows this exact scenario perfectly. In the beginning of the day, we were just consolidating, and then we had this large push towards the upside and some continuation throughout the day. QQQ, we have not made any new highs or lows. As you can see, this day might be a little bit more confusing for beginners because it does look like we're having a lot of price action, but we really have low volume and we're not making any significant moves in price. We don't have any clear trend. We're moving up at the beginning of the day, large drop, and then we rebound throughout the day towards the upside. So this is a perfect example where the tech stock, for example, once again, Apple, is having a large push towards the upside, while the Qs has not made any new highs or lows and hasn't established a clear trend for the day. Now let's move on to scenario number 3, where the QQQ is moving towards the upside alongside your tech stock. For example, like I said, it could be Apple, Nvidia, Tesla, any big tech name. So we're both moving in correlation and they're corresponding within each other, right? They're moving up with each other. They're both moving towards the upside. So let's move on to an example for this scenario. As you can see, we have Nvidia here on the 1-minute chart. We are continuously pushing towards the upside, making higher highs and higher lows. This is very easy to see. You're able to know that we have a clear trend for the day. We are pushing towards the upside, and alongside that, the QQQ is also having a clear trend for the day and pushing towards the upside. So these are days where you're loving to trade the tech stocks with the QQQ trending alongside it. You're able to clearly gauge relative strength and weakness. You know that the Qs is pushing up and your tech name is also pushing up alongside it. We're pushing up aggressively and you can clearly see the trend for the day. This is the day that you want to trade and put on potentially more size and be more aggressive with your positions. So you can take more contracts, more shares once you become confident with your ability to trade these names and understand relative strength and weakness, which is what I'm going to be teaching you guys in today's video. So now let's move on to scenario number 4, where the QQQ is actually pushing towards the upside while tech stocks are consolidating. The individual names are consolidating, not making any new highs, once again, or any new lows. We're just within our range, right? QQQ is pushing up, tech in its range. Now, we're going to move on to a live trading example that I actually ended up taking on Friday on Nvidia. And if you haven't known already, I'm doing a 0 to 10K account challenge. So be sure to tune into that. I have trade reviews posted live every single day. So this is going to be one of the examples actually from the trade that I took on Friday. So let me pull that up for you guys. So as you guys can see on the left side of your screen, you can see QQQ is pushing down all day technically. And we're currently at the bottom of the range, so below our 5-minute low. And Nvidia on the right, you guys can actually see it retested its previous day high and showed tons of strength at that level and is now continuously pushing towards the upside, making it an amazing trade and a perfect example of relative strength / weakness and how while the Qs can be pushing down, Nvidia can make a new high and continue pushing towards the upside. And as you guys can see, we just hit our final profit target. I appreciate you guys making it all the way to the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll be sure to make a video every single week on Wednesday for you guys, teaching you something new about the markets and teaching you about my strategy that I use every single day. I'll see you guys next week on Wednesday, and have a good day. Peace out, guys.